Hello and welcome to today's webinar, How One CIO Succeeded in Disaster-Proofing His Data in the Cloud. Today's webinar is sponsored by Druva and produced by Actual Tech Media. Now, before we jump into it, there's a few housekeeping items here we need to cover. First off, I should mention that my name is David Davis and I'm the moderator for today's event. I'm excited to be joined by today's presenters. They are Mr. Shay Verma, Director of Product Marketing at Druva, and our special guest for today is Mr. Jim Nunn. Jim is the CIO of the Egan Company, and you'll learn more about Jim in just a moment. Now, we want this to be a very educational event, so we encourage you to use the questions box there in the GoToWebinar control panel. We have experts from Druva available to answer all your technical questions, all your product questions when it comes to data protection and disaster recovery. So keep those questions coming throughout the presentation. I also want to mention that we have some really cool handouts available for download there on the GoToWebinar control panel. In there, you'll find the Druva playbook that you can download, the essential guide to different architectural options for enterprise data protection, a white paper on streamlining virtual machine backups, as well as disaster recovery as a service in the cloud using Druva. So make sure you check out all those handouts. And then finally, I should mention that we have a $300 Tango gift card to give away at the end of today's presentation. Now, if you aren't familiar with Tango gift cards, the cool thing about Tango gift cards is that you don't have to just use them at one place, like an Amazon gift card or an Apple gift card. You can take this Tango gift card and you can use it at just about all the different places you might want to use a gift card. Places like Amazon, Apple, but also restaurants, retailers. You can even donate the gift card to charity if you choose to do that. And finally, the Tango gift cards never expire. So it's a really valuable gift card, and we'll be announcing the prize winner on today's live event at the end of the presentation. Now, if you're watching this event on demand after the live event, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. If you'd like the exact legal prize terms and conditions for today's drawing, you can find those at actualtechmedia.com. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll see the prize terms and conditions link there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Shay Verma of Druva.
It's a pleasure today chatting with Jim, who is the CIO of Egan. He has over 21 years of experience in technology leadership, where he helps solve business challenges and gives the company better tools and insight to improve decision-making, operations, and profitability. He's a speaker at local and national conferences and events. Again, it's a pleasure having you here, Jim. He's also an award finalist for 2018 and 19 for the CIO of the Year, so congratulations. It's really a pleasure having you here as well. A little bit about myself. My name is Shay Verma, Druva. I've been here at Druva for about 4.5 years. I'm the Director of Product Marketing. I manage the Phoenix and Cloud Ranger services. Today's webinar is essentially how we have helped Egan solve their data protection challenges in the cloud. With that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Jim. Jim?
Thanks, Shay, for the introduction. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about, first off, who Egan is, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more about what we did here specifically with Druva. And just thanks everyone for tuning in and for watching this. And like they said, if you've got questions, drop them in the team chat or drop them in the Q&A, and we will answer those later as well. So Egan is a specialty contractor. We're in the construction market. We're based in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. We do mechanical, electrical, curtain wall, fire life safety. If you've ever watched a Vikings game, you've seen some of the glass that we've done, or a Twins game, you've seen the glass in the stadiums, both those stadiums that we've done. We also do mechanical, electrical, and all sorts of other trades as well in the commercial space. We have over 1,200 people that work in our projects, mostly in the Twin Cities, but other Midwest areas as well. So now to get into why you showed up, a little bit about where we've been, what we've done, and what helped us to move to Druva. So we do have 1,200 users. We've got job sites all over the place. headquarters, a couple remote offices, probably similar to what a lot of you tuning in today have as well. Multiple places where you need to back up the data and make sure that it never goes down. Our situation has changed over the course of the last few years. So a long time ago, probably more than a decade ago, we backed up with tape using Backup Exec. And, backup has progressed quite a bit over the last decade. And probably around 10 years ago, we said, you know what, that is not good enough anymore. We want to back up the disk. And so we did that with Commvault. Commvault was, a great upgrade. It was good software. It worked. We were able to back up directly to disk and then replicate the disk to another location. That was exciting because it really improved our backup speed and also our recoverability as well. Then, we kind of got sick of the complexity with Commvault. If we needed to upgrade the system, we'd have to have a guy come out for a couple of days to get us up and running on just even a new version. So with Veeam, you could download that software, and it works pretty easily. You could download the software and get a backup running today. That was exciting to us. So we switched from Commvault to Veeam just for the ease of use. We still were backing up directly to disk and then replicating that disk. And in the process, we started working with Exagrid as well, and Exagrid because we didn't want to have to fully manage the storage on the back end. We at least wanted someone to send us a spare drive if they needed, but that's what we did. We went with Veeam and Exagrid, and we were very happy because I didn't actually know that something like Druva was out there or that it actually could work the way it does. So once I learned about Druva, even though I was happy with Veeam and Exagrid, it made so much sense for us to switch. And it made sense for us to switch because Exagrid and Veeam, you still have to manage that storage. And you manage it actually in 2 locations generally. And every time you need to upgrade that storage, what usually ends up happening is you upgrade one of the devices on the far end, and then you take 2 of the devices from the far end, you bring it over to the near end, and you have to move all the data, and there's a lot of work involved with it, and you got to be really smart about when you do that, and you got to do it plenty ahead of time so that you don't have backups going down, and it's just a lot of work and a lot of management. And with Druva, when we started backing up into the cloud, we didn't need to do that anymore because the backups went directly from where they're running for us today, the live data, directly into Druva's cloud. So we're going to talk more about all the advantages there. So that's just one little bullet point, and we'll get into more details as we move along here. Our infrastructure, just so you know, is 100% virtualized. So that means that all of our desktops are virtualized, and we have about 350 of those, and all of our servers are virtualized, and we have about 100 of those. And we also have a variety of SaaS apps, just as I'm sure you guys do, and apps hosted on AWS, Google, and Azure. Our own infrastructure for our VDI and for our virtual desktops all run on VMware locally on our own infrastructure. And we also have about 400 Chromebooks out there in addition to our 350 VDI desktops. So that's kind of the way we look, but this software actually would work even if you had physical on-prem servers as well, and it's just as slick in those situations. So the complexity, some of the challenges for us, multiple vendors for backups with the Exagrid and Veeam. The Veeam software isn't that expensive, but maintaining and buying the storage that we needed to on the back end is definitely expensive. It's also time consuming, as I mentioned before, in working with the back end storage. And for us, it's really important that we have something that works quickly because we've got terabytes of CAD files, and it's really, really important that that stuff is backed up and we don't lose any of that data. Some of the solutions that we've looked at, so expensive on-premise hardware is something we really wanted to get away from, because when we're taking that exagrid and we're upgrading one on one side and then taking two of them and bringing over to another side and moving all that data around and doing all that work, usually spending about a week's worth of work on that, we're not pushing forward any other user-based initiatives. Backups are something that all our users take for granted. Of course, we need to have them, but they're table stakes. They're not something that really is additive to our end users. And we, fortunately for us, we haven't been dependent on tape for a decade, but if you still are dependent on tape, that's a real problem. Expensive to maintain, and it just is so easy to damage that stuff, and that's always a concern. And then recovery. So you can actually Druva actually has some really cool DR capabilities where you can take your backups that you backed up and you can actually fire up those desktops or fire up those servers directly in the cloud storage. That's amazing. That's super cool. We haven't quite got there yet, and it's really on us why we haven't quite got there yet. We built the system and we have it backed, or we have replication occurring to another partner, and our goal is eventually to move away from that partner and to do it all directly with Druva. Data protection needs and changes in the industry. So the data is the core of our business, as I'm sure it is for you guys. We have digital models, databases, client records, and it's really, really critical that none of this data is lost. So we're a construction company, and as such, we do work on construction sites. And our users work with VDI desktops. In my history, though, because I've worked here for quite a while, what happens a lot is that people break into job sites and they steal equipment. And they jump over the fence, and then they kick in the door to the trailer, which any 6-year-old girl can do. And then they take all your equipment, they load it up into a pickup truck that's probably yours as well, sitting in there. They grab the keys and they drive it through the fence, and now they've taken all of your data and all of your desktops. So we, a long time ago, switched to VDI desktops because we can quickly deploy just a couple of monitors and dummy terminals, and they lost nothing. And also the thieves, they got some monitors, and that's all they're really going to be able to use. And that's a really big deal to us. But also, just making sure that all that data is backed up on our servers in case our servers have a problem is really a big deal. Because when you build a site, a lot of times what that means is that your designers who might be working on site are only a few days or weeks ahead of all the physical labor workers that are out there turning the wrenches and making, digging in the ground and making the building come to life. So if they fall behind, then all the physical workers can't do anything, and that's a really big deal and huge cost impacts for us. So making sure that we have multiple backups of our data per day is really critical to us. And also being able to retrieve these large construction files really quickly if we needed to get anything is a big deal as well. And then we also need to be able to make sure that we are retaining the documents for as long as we need to, even if someone accidentally deleted it off the main system, that we're still retaining it for government projects. Those are that's some of the background, and really what drove us to Druva. First, I didn't really know that something like this could exist, because there's pieces to it that sort of didn't make sense to me right away. Like, yes, we want to back up to the cloud. That's awesome. We all want to do that. But when we need to retrieve files, how's that going to work? That just seems like that's going to take way too long. How do you retrieve, your files? And I think, I got a quote out there that they liked. I really feel if 100 companies tried it, that probably 99 would buy it, because when you back up a giant server, yes, it takes a while to back up that entire server. But most of the time, in fact 99% of the time, what you're doing when you want to restore a file is user deletes one file. And what we found is in our on-prem system, that it took longer on our on-prem system to restore that one user file on a large server. And part of that is because you've got this global catalog, which is giant. And it takes a while for your on-prem server to bring up that global catalog and allow you to drill down to the particular file. And in our case, sometimes it was taking 2 hours just for that global catalog to come up where you could pick that file. And then a couple minutes, to restore the file. Well, in Druva, because it's in the cloud, you've got that unlimited CPU that you can take advantage of, and that global catalog can pull up in just a couple minutes, and you can restore your file, and you've got the user file up and going in a couple minutes as opposed to 2 hours on a really large server. So that's one situation in which it's actually much faster to restore a file with Druva than it is with our on-prem system. Another case that's really great for this is if you have just even small servers, a lot of times those things will restore just as quick as well. If you've got large servers, they do have other things as well, like their DR system, which would allow you to turn it on and then start copying things back. So that's been great for us, and it's far easier. So there's one single pane of glass as well for management. That makes it way easier. We can go and we can see all of our systems. We happen to be entirely virtualized, so it would probably fit in one pane of glass for us anyway. But for those of you with physicals as well, you can see all of that together in one place. And the thing that was really gotten us, that we really appreciate the most, is the backup window is reduced. We can actually run more backups in a day. The backups, there's far less to go wrong with it. So, we don't have to worry about, did our on-prem storage fill up in either our primary site or a replication site, because we're not going to fill up, this cloud-based system. So that in itself is a really great thing. In fact, we had our main guy who's responsible for our backups, he was unable to come to work for a couple months, and in the past that would have been a giant, huge deal to us because when you have on-prem systems, they require care and maintenance. And in this case, it wasn't a big deal because we don't have to maintain it. The storage is, if we need to grow our storage, it's just going to grow. It's not a problem. I think a lot of times people look at their systems, and you can acquire like Veeam software. It's really cheap and it works really well. It's fantastic, but the back-end storage that's required for it does require a lot of care and feeding. It's kind of like kittens, you can go get 20 kittens and you can probably get them for free, but the care and feeding of those 20 kittens is now going to be a big undertaking, let alone litter box and all those other fun things that you get with kittens. Cute, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And I kind of feel like a lot of the on-prem systems are sort of like those kittens. They're cute and it works well, but it's going to take a lot of work on your team to actually maintain and keep that up and running. And when you're running in this cloud-based system, someone else takes care of the kittens. You just get to play with them. You just get to make sure that everything works well, and that's so much easier and really has greatly increased the reliability of our backups. We don't have to worry about maintaining a certain amount of free space on our exagrid. So I've kind of beat that one to death, but I really want to just point that out. That's one of the things that we are most excited about. And also with DR in the cloud, which is a place that we're excited to move towards. You don't have to worry about replication I mean, you don't have to worry about having your stuff in multiple sites, because that's kind of a part of the deal with your cloud-based solution. And there's really no compromises on business continuity and SLAs. So next slide here. So these are the things that surprised me the most about Druva. These are the things that when I was a very happy Veeam customer, and like I said, it's great software, with our on-prem solution, replicating to another on-prem solution, I never would have guessed that you can actually restore faster than you could from an on-prem system. That seemed like, you know, they told us, hey, don't worry about it, you'll be able to restore your files, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's probably going to work too well for us, you know, because if we have a CAD file down, user deleted it, we need to get that thing back as quick as possible. Well, we can actually get it back faster now with Druva, and we can also have more restore points, which is really fantastic for us. And that's something that I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it. So I would definitely recommend you start a trial, because if you start a trial, they'll give you a free try and buy. That's what we did. And then just test it with your own data and see if that actually makes sense. And if it does, you know, you won't want to maintain those kittens anymore locally. So SaaS solution, that always appeals to me, and I think it does to a lot of CIOs, just because you can get it off the ground really, really quickly. You don't have to build up, you know, you don't have to put all these building blocks in place in your own infrastructure. You basically can start almost right away. The other thing that was also a surprise to us, it was like, okay, now all of our backups are going to be going out to the cloud, and we're going to want to run it frequently. Well, we actually found out we could run it more frequently than we were on our on-prem solution, but I was certain that that was going to impact our bandwidth. You know, the last thing you want is your users coming back to you saying, hey, you know, they'll always tell you the business thing that they're doing. They'll never tell you about, you know, the fact that their sports page loaded a little slow. But you know sometimes where that's coming from. But they usually will be quick to complain if things get slower on the web. And it really wasn't the case for us at all. I assumed it would be, and I was okay with it getting a little bit slower, but it wasn't really the case. And the reason for us, at least, is we purchase links to the internet, like most of you do, and we've got some good fiber connections to the internet, and those are full duplex links, which are different than best effort links, which you a lot of times get at your home, in that it's bi-directional. So if we get a 200 meg link, it's 200 megs down, it's 200 megs up. And we're using a lot of that 200 megs down with our users browsing the web and things like that. But we're not using very much of the up. And most of what we're doing here with Druva is in the up direction, and so our users really saw no impact, and that was shocking to me, and also was something I had to experience in order to believe, and that's probably the way it'll be for you guys too. And then the thing that's really been just so fantastic is how much maintenance on the storage in particular we save per month, and it's a really big deal. And just on maintenance and having a drive go bad and having to replace some of the storage and having to move things around so that you can optimize your space. All of those things, all of those tasks just disappear. They go away. And you can use that time for more productive things to your end users. So those were the things that surprised me the most, and I think that if you do a trial, it'll surprise you the most as well. But I'm very glad I did, and I've really enjoyed working with it, and so has my team. It's also very easy for anyone to go in and, you know, we have one person set up the backups, make sure they're working, but we've got lots of people that can go in and do restores, and, you know, even our interns that are here for a week, we can point them at the software, have them go in, grab a restore, and help a user out, and that's been really pretty fantastic for us. So that's, I think, it for me, unless you guys have questions for me at the end. And if you do, just put those in the Q&A. I'm going to pass this on back to Shay.
Thanks, Jim. Truly appreciate a lot of the kind words you said there. Again, it is a pleasure on our side as well to have you as part of the Druva family. For those of you who are new to Druva and are trying to learn a little bit more about our solution, I will go ahead and talk a little bit, give you some highlights on the product as well, so that you can see how it may fit your needs and requirements as well. And we can have any discussion if necessary from there. So really, a little bit more about Druva. If you see our progress over the years, we've been in this business for about 10 years now. We have over 4,000 enterprise customers under our belt. Some of the marquee customers are shown. We also chatted with Egan today. They are part of the Druva family as well. As a cumulative partner in terms of storage for AWS, we have over 100 petabytes of data under management in AWS, and we are literally one of their top 5 storage partners as well. A lot of people would be surprised by that, but essentially, if you see the number of partners AWS has, having that kind of a score of top 5 partner of AWS from a storage perspective is a big sense of credibility that Druva delivers in this backup and recovery space or data protection space as well. We have over 10% of Fortune 500 companies as well, and so I'm sure if you need any references, we'll be happy to chat with you as well on that. If you see what Druva tried to set out, we are trying to solve the data protection space for lots of organizations for all enterprise data. It really doesn't matter to us where the data resides. It could be in cloud data sources, infrastructure, platform, SaaS solutions, Office 365, G Suite, Box, endpoints, tablets, mobile cell phones, smartphones, desktops, laptops, or even physical and virtual infrastructure on premises, in a hybrid posture, or even in the cloud. The goal here is to protect that data for the enterprise without the pain that lots of organizations, and what Jim also highlighted, that organizations go through in terms of infrastructure management, in terms of infrastructure, more appliances, in terms of software, tapes, archival. We want to eliminate all the plumbing for organizations and deliver it as a service to organizations. And what we like to say is, when you walk home, you turn on the electricity, you turn on the lights in your room, you don't really care where the electricity is coming from, where the generators are. And that's the vision of Druva. We want to protect all this data in a very simplistic fashion, delivered as a service, one of the only SaaS solutions out there. And of course, it is on demand. You use as much as you want and only pay for the resources being used at the time of need, right? Now, with backup and recovery being part of the bread and butter of Druva, we're also looking to provide value-added services on top of backup and recovery, right? Disaster recovery. Once your infrastructure is down, for whatever reason it is, it could be a flood, it could be a hurricane, or you just really want to have more resources at your disposal from the cloud perspective. Say if you're in the retail industry and you're looking for trying to boot up more instances for more horsepower during Thanksgiving for your shopping season, you can literally do that within seconds, boot up more instances in the cloud very easily within minutes, or you can use that for disaster recovery purposes as well. And then at the end of the day, when the data has been united into the cloud, into the Druva Cloud platform, which is powered by AWS, again, doesn't matter where it is coming from, we can protect all these data repositories on the left side. We will provide you more archival long-term retention capabilities, compliance management, ability to look for any data infractions in your data, and ability to service e-discovery needs, for example. If you ever need to preserve the data in a fashion that is completely immutable and it is forensically sound, we have those capabilities as well built into the platform. And at the end of the day, the vision here is to not only remove the plumbing and all the hard work that is needed in terms of management and the cost of it associated, and also provide you the ability to give you some intelligence around your data. Where is your data? What kind of data is it? Any infractions? How do you remediate for that, right? And of course, where is it coming from? What are the key bottlenecks in your servers that from a backup and recovery angle, what is going on with the data. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we capture it, we protect it, give you the full visibility and control of that information, and of course, provide you with intelligence around the data. This is all offered as a service, a SaaS solution that is a cloud-native platform built in the cloud and delivered on demand to customers. A little bit more, I highlighted this a little bit. Our breadth of data capture is quite significant and very unique in the industry. We have a single platform that captures endpoint data or end user data, as we like to say it. Endpoints could be either on laptops, tablets, cell phones. In fact, for BYOD policies, a user at any given point has over 3.3 devices, right? And so you want to make sure you can capture it and make sure there are compliance requirements being met. On top of that, end user data could be in cloud applications like SaaS applications, Office 365, G Suite, Box, Salesforce. We help protect that as well. Then we have Cloud Ranger, which helps protect cloud native workloads. If you have applications that are being rewritten for the cloud or you're moving workloads to the cloud, we have the ability to protect that as well. And then, of course, finally, the infrastructure world that you've heard of, the Veeams, the Commvaults, and the likes of it, we help protect data on physical and virtual infrastructure, be it on premises, be it in the cloud, or be it in a hybrid posture. At the end of the day, we give, as Jim mentioned, a single pane of glass to manage all your data in the cloud. This way, you don't have multiple disjointed, multi-vendor solution that is non-integrated and gives you a lot of headaches as a result of that. So it's a single dashboard SaaS solution for organizations to leverage for their data protection and business continuity needs. From a diverse environment perspective, if you look at all the moving parts that exist in the environment, there is tapes, there's backup servers. Organizations still end up losing data, and that's a big risk today to organizations. And if you take that and look at when you have remote offices, or you have retention and compliance requirements, or you have to meet DR business continuity SLAs, it becomes a very complex scenario for remote offices. And that is pretty much hinged upon this picture over here, where we try to eliminate, simplify the whole data protection suite for you across all your remote offices, across all the regions if you have a global footprint. It doesn't matter to us where the data is. It could be on premises, or it could be in the cloud in a hybrid posture as well, which is, for example, VMware Cloud on AWS. We are actually VMware Cloud on AWS ready as well, and we're certified from that perspective as well. We will unify that data in the cloud and give you disaster recovery capabilities. And of course, because it's all in the cloud, you now have the ability to recover that information at any given point to any server in the cloud or off cloud as well. This is all done as a SaaS solution without the complexity of any hardware in it. To give you an idea here, it is very important to understand our architecture a little bit, and this is where you will start seeing where the benefits of Druva's architecture shines. There are no boxes for you to utilize, right? And so as a result, we leverage all the microservices that comes out of AWS. We were born in the cloud, we were made for the cloud, and we leverage all the services that come out of AWS to provide you with a solution that leverages all these services. The key benefit here, it is a cloud native solution, which is a true cloud native solution, because now we can scale on demand based on your requirements at any given point, and there are no wasted resources as a result, and you pay for only those services that you actually use. So naturally, on the top rightmost corner over here, it shows all the services that we leverage from AWS, and in the bottom right corner, it shows you the ability for us to provide you with disaster recovery capabilities as well. Once your virtual machines have been backed up, you naturally have the ability to spin that up as well in the cloud at any given point. Now, it is very important to understand that we are a cloud-native solution. And that is very different from saying that we will give you a cloud solution for your data protection. And I want to stop here for a real second. A lot of our competitors talk about providing a cloud solution. Now, keep in mind, this is what we call cloud washing. Essentially, what it means is, by getting a software, you now have to run it in the cloud. You will have to buy licenses for it, and you will have to maintain and upgrade and provide all the patches required for it. Now, if you're in a hybrid posture, you are actually managing all of that in the cloud and also a lot of the software, hardware on premises as well. That is where a cloud native service actually shines. There is no software involved. There is no hardware involved. And as a result, doesn't matter where it is, if you want to use a particular region, immediately within Druva's cloud platform, we can spin it up for you within seconds. Again, we eliminate all the hardware, software, and the plumbing in the background and spin it up for you. So naturally, you can immediately, with the service provided from Druva, get access to global reach in terms of AWS regions. You will have full ability through a single pane of glass to manage it and full visibility of your data. It doesn't matter where those data sources are. Because it is in the cloud, we can provide predictable and consistent SLAs and guarantees to your data durability, fully elastic, highly scalable, and on-demand services. This is the key idea and the premises of Druva, where we are really taking out all the bottlenecks out and providing it as on-demand with a highly scalable solution. Again, to reflect upon the credibility of Druva, we have over 100 petabytes in the cloud, and it is an extremely elastic, scalable solution as well. Now, because it's in the cloud, there's the security confidence that comes with it. There are a lot of things that we do from a security perspective, and I'll talk to that in a little bit as well. And then, of course, because there is no infrastructure requirements, we have the ability to lower the total cost of ownership for any organization that has multiple remote offices, for example. And, of course, depending upon your retention compliance requirements as well. From a VMware perspective, we leverage all VADP APIs, leverage CBT for application-consistent backups, integrate with vCenter, and of course, we can provide DR capabilities in the cloud. As I was talking earlier about our VMC solution, this is the beauty of it. It doesn't matter where your data source is. Because it's a cloud-native solution, our architecture remains the same. You either deploy a proxy or an agent, and you can back up directly to the cloud. So naturally, we are the only SaaS backup solution for VMware Cloud on AWS. We support full VMware workload mobility on premises or in the cloud. Doesn't matter where the VM is. We will intelligently pick up the backups from where it left off so that you don't have to back up multiple data at any given point. Very easy and easy to deploy as well. Again, all through a single pane of glass. From a recoverability perspective, you have the ability to restore the whole VM. You have the ability to restore a particular snapshot or even at a granular level with the file. Given that we are built on AWS, we are able to leverage that service that we provide to organizations across the globe, which essentially means if you have data residency requirements and that you want to make sure that your data doesn't leave a particular region, then you have the ability to use those AWS regions for your convenience and easily meet any data residency and compliance requirements for that particular local government or the kind of environment you are in. So we are deployed in all of these regions here, and as AWS develops new regions and organizations tend to use that with a global footprint, we continue to expand our services across all of them because we can do that within a span of 20 hours if really needed. Security is something that we really don't take, security is something that we really take seriously. I was heading off the path of we don't take it seriously, but we actually take it very, very seriously. In fact, Druva never has access to any data, any customer data, and data is fully encrypted in flight, at store, and we use something what we call envelope encryption as well, which essentially means we encrypt the keys. We save the tokens, which are the encrypted keys, and make those tokens available at the time of a live session. Once the session goes down or the session dies and the user is not using that session for backups and recovery or even accessing data, then the key gets destroyed and it is so secure that if the government ever comes to us and asks us, hey, for corporation X, Y, and Z, can you please provide us with their data? The answer is we can't, because we don't save the keys. We only save the encrypted keys, which is a token, and we have no access to those keys as well, which essentially means there's never a key server. That's all eliminated, and so it's very, very difficult to hack into those servers, or if the servers go down, you lose access to your data, right? None of that exists with the Druva solution. It's a fully vetted solution. I mean, we have agencies like NASA that is leveraging our software, that's leveraging our service for data protection as well. And so we have some really tight restrictions around that, and it's a fully vetted service that we can talk about if necessary, if you have any questions about that. Then in addition to that, we also do what we call data sharding. Essentially, we separate the data from the metadata, and we keep them separate. So if anyone does break into AWS, which has never happened, and gets access to your blocks in S3, they won't be able to make sense of the information, because the metadata is stored somewhere else, and unless you really understand our file system, you will not be able to put anything back together. So it's an extra layer of obfuscation that we provide to our customers as well. In terms of workloads, we support all modern workloads. Any organization that is looking to provide that is looking for services for AWS, we support all modern workloads, be it on the virtualized side, VMware, Hyper-V, or AHV, physical Linux boxes, Windows as well, databases, MSQL, and Oracle, and then we also support NAS boxes as well. Now, one of the things that Jim was mentioning is the ease of use and how he was completely surprised by the performance of the system relative to on-premises solutions. And the real meat of that technology comes from our patented source-side global deduplication technology, which essentially means that the data that you have, only a single copy of that data is ever stored in the cloud. We do source-side deduplication, which means before the data gets sent to the cloud, we check those blocks for hashes and make sure that the block doesn't exist in the cloud. And once it's been verified that it doesn't exist, at that point, and only at that point, will we send the data to the cloud. So that really, at any given point, reduces the bandwidth required to save data in the cloud. And because it is source-side, and because all the data is unified in the cloud, we have the ability to globally deduplicate the data across all your remote sites, across all your data repositories. Doesn't matter where they are, where they're coming from. And that is done at the source side as well. The other benefit of that, naturally, is, as you may have already guessed, because you only pay for Druva for the services we provide on the data stored in the cloud post-global deduplication, we minimize the amount of data stored in the cloud at any given point to a single copy. That helps reduce costs significantly as well. Of course, other techniques of variable block source side deduplication, and because it's a forever incremental backup solution where you don't need synthetic fulls anymore, you don't need full backups again. We will only back up the data for the first time, a full backup, and do incrementals from there. Our file system is built such that you can recover your data from any particular time-indexed snapshot, which helps protection against ransomware as well, because the data is stored in the cloud. But at the end of the day, it is only an indexed snapshot. Now, from a consumption standpoint, a lot of organizations we've talked to have talked about the fact that their data that they have to manage is growing at an unprecedented rate. Naturally, it is fragmented, and because they have it across all remote sites, maintenance of the storage requirement becomes a big problem. You have to have IT expertise in every remote site as well to manage the hardware on premises, to manage the software on premises, and to manage the storage as well. Now, with storage and all the hardware that you're buying, you are locked into a CapEx model where you have to predict your usage over a period of, say, 5 to 7 years if you have long-term retention, or even if it's longer. But the problem with that is you now have to manage it, and you've already spent the dollars. However, that's a waste of money because things change, situations change, And as a result, you are paying for things that you're not really utilizing at any given point. And so Druva's vision here is that, you should only pay for data being stored in the cloud and for the amount of data that is being stored in the cloud. So you don't have to worry about utilization, be it under or overutilization of your software and hardware, your hardware and storage. And then, of course, you don't have to manage all that as well on premises. It's a simple solution. Turn it on and set it, and then you forget about it because it just happens dynamically in the cloud. We will scale everything for you based on your needs because it is a service, and you only pay Druva for the services you provide. We provide. At the end of the day, things like egress charges from a restore perspective, you don't even pay for that because it is only data stored in the cloud post-global deduplication that you pay for, and so there are no hidden costs associated with that as well. You only pay for data stored on a per-month basis for the amount of data stored on a per-month basis, and so you move from a CapEx model to an OpEx model, which really helps simplify your situation and your needs as well. If you need more data, if you have more data, and you need more storage, we scale all of that for you in the background. You don't have to worry about it, and you can literally set it and forget it, and we hear that a lot from our customers as well. At the end of the day, because there is no dependency on hardware, software licenses, be it on-premises or in the cloud, you don't have to instantiate anything in the cloud. We take care of a lot of that, and you only pay for data stored in the cloud. It's a pay-as-you-go model, and data is only minimally stored in the cloud. We help organizations as their retention needs expand and as their remote offices expand by over 60%. It's a typical number that we see with lots of organizations as well. So that's something to keep in mind of. This pretty much brings us to the end of my part of the presentation. I want to leave you with a few key pointers on the Druva Cloud Platform. We will provide you with a single pane of glass to manage. Again, it is the only SaaS solution that encompasses the number of data repositories from a breadth perspective. There's no one else that can do it. Endpoints, tablets, cell phones, mobile devices, cloud solutions, SaaS solutions, Box, Office 365 G Suite, or any physical and virtual infrastructure. And of course, cloud-native applications running in the cloud. Doesn't matter to us. You will have a single pane of glass to manage that across all your remote sites, and of course, across all the geographies that you may have with a global footprint. Full data visibility and control with additional capabilities around data governance, where you have the ability to manage for compliance and e-discovery requirements. Reduce infrastructure dependency, there's almost none. Set it, forget it, and it backs up directly to the cloud. At the end of the day, we help lower organizations lower their cost. With that, we will go over to the Q&A section and start addressing some of the questions that are coming in. There are a few questions. So, by the way, if you have a panel, if you want to ask us a question, feel free to send your question through the panel. Let's see. A few nice comments already here. Someone has said, awesome platform. I think, thank you very much for the kind words. Hopefully you are a customer. And then there's a question here for Jim. Jim, someone is mentioning over here is that they are currently using Druva for some time, and it's been a win-win as you discussed. Have you used it for SQL and data center productivity loads?
Yeah. We've got our SQL server. We got all of our servers backing up. We've got a couple SQL servers, and yeah, they're all being backed up to the cloud. What was the other part of that? Did I miss some of that?
Or data center productivity loads. SQL Server or data center productivity loads.
Yeah, everything that we have is backing up, and it works. Sometimes, you know, it pays to look at the agent that they have. Most of our stuff is just backed up natively, but they do have agents as well if you want to go that route. So, but we've been able to back up everything.
There are a couple of questions out here, pretty much from the same gentleman, about partnerships in the Europe region. We do have partners in the Europe region. I highly recommend touching base with our sales team, and they will be able to point you in the right direction from partners. Europe is a big focus for Druva, and so definitely reach out to them, and we will be able to help you with those services as well. There's another question that has come in here. Can initial backup be seeded by a shipping drive? So the answer to that question is no. Our architecture lives in the cloud, so we have to back it up directly. However, we are a very big partner of AWS, and we have co-developed a solution with AWS leveraging Snowball Edge. So if you do require those kinds of services, that is also part of the services we provide. From our console, you'll be able to order a Snowball Edge, which comes pre-configured with the Druva Cloud Data Technology Platform, and you will be able to back it up to Snowball Edge, and then we will take those Snowball Edge and put it in your S3 buckets in the cloud for you. This service is also offered to you at no additional cost. And that again goes back to our vision, right? We want organizations to not worry about the plumbing. Turn it on, forget it, and that's it. Set it and forget it. That's the goal. And so even the additional cost of a Snowball Edge, there is none for customers. We absorb that. You only pay for data stored in the cloud once the data is in the cloud. So we can definitely provide you with Snowball Edge capabilities as well. All right, so some of the other questions, I think there are lots of questions coming in here. Let me see. Are the VMs backed up application consistent? Yes, we quiesce the VMs and make sure that they are crash and application consistent. We leverage the APIs from VMware as well. And so naturally we will be, we have the ability to provide you with application consistent backups as well. Jim, I think there are one or two questions coming in for you that I think you would be better to address them. Where do you see the biggest impact in terms of cost savings?
Biggest impact in cost savings for us, you know, because we moved from Veeam. It sort of depends on which product you're moving from. Veeam, the software is pretty cheap, but like I said, there's you gotta mix and match it with your own on-prem storage. In our case, in 2 locations, because you want to back up locally and then replicate. And you know, when we compared the prices on those pieces, it was pretty even. However, where we're saving a huge amount of money is on time. You know, so our admin does not have to spend, you know, the 30 hours a month maintaining it and making sure it's working, and you know, replacing storage, fixing storage, you know, moving things around so that certain volumes don't fill up. All that work is gone. And so that's been the biggest thing for us, and then it's also way more stable. So having a super stable, you want your backups just to work, you know, because when you're working on that, you're not working on another thing. So that really is where we are seeing the most of our payback is on time saved and you know, not having to deal with those the storage kittens, as I call them.
Great. Gentleman is asking, actually has 2 questions. I think this I can address, is around the question on long-term retention from existing solutions, whether we will be able to process and retrieve the data from something like Avamar or data domain boxes. The answer to that is a lot of these vendors lock in their data formats and it becomes proprietary. And so we don't have any services that would actually unarchive that data and then back it up. We would actually prefer to back up data directly in the native form that you may have. It has to be in the native form for us to back it up. And so lots of organizations, the way they're dealing with that is they're phasing those kinds of solutions out while leveraging Druva as a new solution. And after the compliance requirements of retention, they just phase those solutions out. Or the data eventually. There are some partners that we have worked with in the past that can help with those migration services, so something that we should talk about with the sales organization as well. Let's see. The other question here is, how do you pay Druva? So this is something, do I need an AWS account? So this is something that if you're not familiar with AWS, you don't need to have an AWS account. We will take care of all of that at the time of a POC and set it up for you. So what that essentially means is that at the time of a POC, It gets described where you want to store your data, if you have data residency laws that you have to meet, and all that kind of stuff, what regions you would like to use in AWS. Once that's all done, we take care of everything in the background for you. You will need an AWS account, however, for disaster recovery capabilities. And that is essentially primarily because we don't want to be able to launch your servers in our VPC or in our AWS account, primarily because that would be a big security hole. We want to make sure that our security posture is always maintained. And we have no availability, no data, we can't access data customer at any given point. And so for that, we will actually have to require you to have an AWS account where those EC2 instances or your servers can be brought up directly in your account that we have no access to. It is a one-click failover where you click it and it starts booting up in your instance, in your VPC, and we don't have access. So for backups and recovery, plain vanilla, that kind of stuff, you don't need an AWS account, but if you want more additional services like disaster recovery, you will need an AWS account. For cloud storage, do we pay Druva or AWS? Great question. Cloud storage, for the services we provide, you will pay Druva, which means you will be paying Druva, and we will take care of the storage costs associated with that from AWS. We will take care of the egress charges for restores. We will take care of any ingress charges as well. You only pay for data stored in the cloud through Druva. We manage the rest of it in the background for you. There are no additional hidden charges. Unlike our competitive solution, you will launch something in the cloud, you get a EBS charge, you get a snapshot charge, you get a EC2 charge for running it in the cloud, or you may have storage charges, you don't know. With us, it's a fully predictable charge from an OpEx perspective. It's only dependent upon the amount of data you store in the cloud, and that's it. We take care of the rest of it in the background. All right, I think we are running almost out of time, so why don't we take off all the other questions. Sorry, we'll be able to provide you with the answers offline.
All right, great webinar. Thank you very much to Shay, as well as our special guest presenter. I'm going to announce our prize winner now. And the winner of our Tango $300 gift card is Mr. Jerry Benzie from Pennsylvania. Congratulations to Jerry from Pennsylvania. We will reach out to you to deliver your $300 Tango gift card. If you weren't Jerry from Pennsylvania, or Jerry Benzie specifically from Pennsylvania, better luck on our next events. Next event coming up, you can view all of our upcoming events at events.actualtechmedia.com. Thank you so much to Druva for sponsoring today's webinar. I learned a lot about data protection and especially the real power of Druva, and I hope that you did as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's webinar. Have a great day.